Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. This is the season of the undisputed distinction. So many undisputed champions being created right now, and it's going to continue through the summer going into the end of the year. And great for these boxers. I think it's a great accolade. It really is. Puts them in history. Not many undisputed champions. For a reason. I'm sure there have been other boxers. If they chose to, they could have been undisputed. Floyd Mayweather is one who had a lot of belts. Floyd Mayweather could have been undisputed in every damn weight division, whatever he chose to. Hell, he probably could have gone to heavyweight and became undisputed. That's how talented of a fighter that man was, both offensively and defensively. But your person may say, okay, well, why aren't we seeing more undisputed champions? Well, it's just not that easy when these different organizations don't want to collaborate and eventually kind of have a round robin until we get to one champion, okay? They just don't want to work together. They like to keep things in-house because that's where the money's at. And you can understand if you got a team of, 15 welterweights and, 10 of them are solid, why go outside of your organization to pit them against somebody else? Have them fight each other, man. Keep the money in-house. And when you start talking about titles, man, that's your resume. That's leverage. You know what I mean? So these organizations are going to want to keep their fighters in-house and keep those belts. And if their fighter wants to lose a belt, at least allow them to lose to an in-house fighter, not someone on the outside. So that's just kind of how a lot of these organizations approach it. But when you look at over the history, why there aren't so many undisputed champions, in addition to what I just talked about, hey, man, it comes down to them damn sanctioning fees. The sanctioning fees are crazy. And back in, I think, 2018, Mauricio Suleiman was talking about figuring out a way to get rid of sanctioning fees, but I'll get into that after I cover this, right? So that's something that's come up over and over, at least reducing them, right? But a person may say, okay, well, how much a boxer's losing? Man, they're losing a lot of money. When they get that belt, man, some of these guys can lose up to $200,000. That's per belt, man. So if you're an undisputed champion and your fighter purse is in excess of a certain amount, you're looking at 3%. And if you're making a whole lot of money, that 3% can get over $200,000. And if that's across 4 belts, that's a lot of money. So it's every time you fight, there are fees. So you can easily, like a guy like AJ. AJ's paid, more than $1 million in sanctioning fees just for being the undisputed champion. And of course, he makes a lot of money, but that's a lot of money to give to an organization or organizations. Millions of dollars. It's a lot of money. But boxing is one of the most lucrative sports in the world, for a lot of reasons. So a lot of these champions, that's where they make their fortunes, when they get these belts in those fights. But when it comes to those lifestyles, man, that they have, and a lot of them live really lavishly, there's a serious cost, man. And, it kind of sucks for them. It's these sanctioning bodies just have these guys by the wrist. And they're kind of like have them arrested and force them to pay these fees. And if they don't pay the fee, they get stripped. So it really sucks. But when you talk about how much of the fees for these organizations, well, there are 4 major sanctioning bodies in the sport, and each of them have their own belt. And those fees that you have to pay, and in particular, there are multiple fees to the body because most of these bodies have multiple belts. But when it comes to the WBC, which is probably the most prominent belt, the most coveted, highly sought after belt in boxing, it's crazy. But the first fee, when it comes to the WBC, it comes from the promoter. And the promoters have to pay an annual registration fee, which is in the range of $7,000. And then for every fight, they have to pay between $5,000 and $25,000, depending on the type of belt and the weight category. But when it comes to the boxers, they got to pay 3%. And to me, that is just horrible. And that 3% is of all of their fight earnings, including pay-per-view earnings, broadcasts, and any other mode. So let's say the fighter is guaranteed, let's say at $10 million. Then there's pay-per-view, and that's another $5 million. That's $15 million. And then let's say there's another $3 million for, I don't know, broadcast or any other kind of earning from sponsorship deals or whatever. So let's just look at, $20 million. The 3% of that $20 million, if they have a title or they're defending a belt, they have to give up 3% of that $20 million. That doesn't go to no damn, that's not for taxes. That goes to the sanctioning body, and they still have to pay taxes on that $20 million. But it sucks. So when you look at that, it's really unfortunate. So like Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford coming up, okay, these guys are multimillionaires. They have money. But who wants to pay all of that money just to have, one belt? But when you're talking about 4 belts, we'll take that little bit of difference in the fees incurred across the different organizations, but still, it's a lot of money. So what you see here on this slide is, I think it's from the IBOs. I think I took it from, man. But it gives you an idea of what the promoter is going to get, and then the champion, what the promoter has to pay, and the champion has to pay. And this can actually be a little bit more, but with the champion, this is what it is across all those organizations, and it sucks. The higher of 3% or $2,500 minimum. So depending on your purse size, they're gonna, if it's really low purse and you're a champion, they're gonna take $2,500. But if you have a really large purse, they're gonna go to higher of that 3% or whatever else. So they're not taking the lesser of the two, they're taking the higher, which to me is just greedy. So if you're talking about 3% of your purse, let's say it says 25. Let's say 3% of your purse is $2,600, and the minimum they'll take is $25. They're going to take the $2,600 because that's higher than the minimum. That's just horrible. But take that 3% and apply it to any of these guys' fight purses that give you an idea of what they're making. Okay, you may say 3% is not a lot of money, but 3% is a lot of damn money. When you're talking about $1 million, $10 million, or Anthony Joshua about to go out here and possibly make $100 million. Okay? 3% of $100 million. Y'all do the math. It's a few $1,000,000. And that's all goes to these sanction bodies just to be their champion. And it's crazy. Then, they got to pay the judges. It depends on the fees, but it's going to be probably averaging, about $1,400 a judge. Then there's an organization's commissioner stipend, which varies, and an organization's belt, which varies. So then you got to pay for the damn referee and everything else. So it's really, 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 really horrible, man, horrible. And that's why you see a lot of fighters get stripped when it comes to these organizations and sanctioning fees. You can go win all 4 belts, but they give you a certain time frame to where you got to pay certain fees. And if not, you'll get stripped. And Floyd Mayweather, matter of fact, I'll actually tell you what happened with Floyd Mayweather, because Floyd Mayweather wasn't trying to hear all that, man. He said one of the recent criticisms of the sanctioning bodies, came from Floyd. Floyd has been very vocal about it. He said you can't feed your kids belts. He claimed the reason why organizations started the concept of super champions and franchise champions was solely monetary. He said the more belts mean more sanctioning fees at the same rates. And that's true. And that sucks. And that's crazy. In 2015, Mayweather was stripped of his WBO belt because he failed to pay $200,000 in sanctioning fees. Crazy. This was, in fact, the maximum limit, since 3% of Mayweather's purse came to much more. So 3% of Mayweather's purse was way over $200,000. So the maximum limit is $200,000. But when you have 4 belts, you can easily get yourself up to $800,000. And then every time you defend those belts, it's the same thing. It's a lot of money, especially if you're making the kind of money like what Floyd was making, Anthony Joshua was making. But even if you're not making a lot of money, still, to give 3% up just because, it's like when you buy your house or you buy your car. You see some of these miscellaneous damn fees here, tax and title, filing this fee, the something fee. You're like, what the hell is this? It's just ridiculous, man. So they'll nickel and dime you. But Floyd Mayweather, Anthony Joshua, and now what you have going on with these guys, man, Earl Spence, Terrence Crawford, the ladies, who would want to hold on to, who would want to be undisputed champion for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, if you could continue to defend all the belts? When you look at how much money you would have paid, that's a lot of money. That's why some of these fighters win it and they drop it. They still, made history by becoming the undisputed champion. They just didn't want to remain because they want to pay them damn fees. And the promoters have to pay fees, but the promoters get the money out the fighter's purse. And that sucks, but that's how it goes. But with those belts, there's a lot of money they can make. So, I mean, it's just one of those things, man. It's a win for the champion. It's a win for the sanction, the organization. With those sanctioning fees, and if the champion was to give up those belts, well, then now they can't go out there and command such a handsome purse. So it's structured a kind of way to where it makes it hard for a champion to complain. But when you're Floyd Mayweather and the point he reached, that's why he just would win belts and just give it up. He didn't care. He just was like, I'm not giving up my money to these guys. And he stopped, and I totally understand. But the thing is, Mauricio Sullivan comes out and he starts talking about trying to eliminate sanctioning fees. Okay, he's trying to eliminate most of them or get them reduced. Okay, so this is the thing. He was really pushing reducing sanctioning fees. But what he did and what he has multiple belts created in the WBC. So he may bring down those sanctioning fees, but he's going to create other belts. So really, you end up probably paying more, depending on what belts you have. But for the organization, they end up making more. Because some champions, they don't have them stupid WBC Super World, WBA Regular, WBA Gold, WBC Silver, WBC Diamond, WBC Internal Champion, and WBC Interim. They don't have all those belts at once. But you can just look at the name of those belts that I rattled off and figure, if guys are fighting and making, I don't know if the WBC is just collecting $200,000 on each one of those every time one of these guys go and fight, and if the 7 I just named off, if all 7 are being put up and defended twice a year, it's a lot of money for them to do nothing. Okay, that's why some of these organizations have so many belts, so many champions, because it puts money in their pocket. And I just think it's crazy. But all this stuff you see on this slide, that's going to vary across organizations. But the one thing that's consistent is that 3%. 3% of all of their earnings, not just their fight purse, pay-per-view, endorsements, broadcasts, whatever it is, that total at the end, they get 3%. And that is just foul. So we'll see what Earl Spence is paying it now on 3 belts, but the man's making real money. So the maximum they're taking is $200,000 per belt. So he's giving up $600,000 when he goes to this fight with Terrence Crawford. And Terrence Crawford's giving up $200,000 for his one. But when they go to defend all 4 belts, y'all can do the math. And if you're doing that twice a year, okay, and you have 4 belts, and the purses they're getting, they're probably going to be, definitely more than 3% is going to be more than $200,000 of their purse. So if they do that twice a year, that's $1.6 million a year. That's crazy, right? 4 belts, $200,000 each, twice a year. That's crazy. That you're taking out of your pocket and just giving away. Who out here would want to do that? And I just don't understand, man. I don't know. But they just got to come up with a way of fixing this and see who's managing these belts. And it just needs to be, there needs to be a common denominator across all the sanctioning bodies. They each do their own thing, not really held accountable. And at the end of the day, there shouldn't be 6, 8, 10, 12 belts. You got intercontinental this, the Europe this, the Asian this. And I'm like, what the hell are all these belts? in some of these organizations, man. Because I was doing some research, I was like, this is madness, and they all get a certain percentage. That's why these presidents of these organizations, man, these guys are in. That's why they don't want to work together and come together and have common mandatories. They want to continue to operate independent of the other sanctioning bodies, the other organizations, because they make their money. They can't sit there and have the belt not being defended. Nah, man, they need that belt defended. It's like if they were to have common mandatories. And the guy who's the champion, the WBA, the guy who's going up and defending for his mandatory, the WBC, and he's going to fight once a year. Or the WBA can take that, and have two guys fight for it. Because the challenger has to pay fees too. Something else I forgot to tell y'all. The challenger has to pay fees too to fight for the belt. So these guys are getting paid by the promoter and both fighters. And if you get the guy fighting, he loses, the other guy comes back, fights a couple months later. Now both fighters and the promoter pay again, and they take it now, and guys fight again later. They can get that belt defended probably 3 times in that year. And look at all the money. But if you sit back and do it the way where there's a common mandatory, maybe the belt gets defended once that year. Maybe twice. But doing it the other way, that belt could get defended a lot more. And that's what these guys are looking at. They're looking at the money. But there may be some other people out there watching this video who understand this better than me. I'm giving you that. What is that? Yeah. I'm just giving you an overview to help you understand somewhat that boxers, when they get these belts, they're not just sitting back happy. They have to make tough decisions. You work your whole career to just win a title. Hell, if you go to become undisputed, outstanding. But you work your whole career to get to that point, and then you got to just give your money out of your own pocket to an organization just so you can be their champion. You pay them for you to be their champion. You're doing things for them. They're not doing things for you. So that sucks. But I'll leave you guys with that, man. I'll let you guys do your due diligence. If this topic sparks your interest, man, to get up to speed on it. But, hey, these sanctioning bodies are happy right now because with all these champions and all this undisputed and belts are getting defended, they're getting paid. And remember, it's not just the champion. It's not just the promoter. It's the damn opponents who have to pay too. And the judges get paid, the referees get paid, and there's all these other miscellaneous expenses like commissioner stipend and all this other crap. So it sucks. But anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. Shout out to all the veterans. Y'all keep safe. I'm in the brick.